STRINOVA has over 17 playable characters with different abilities and mechanics that allow them to dominate the battlefield, but which characters are truly S tier and which characters are truly terrible to play? Michelle, a sentinel character with an AR called the Inspector with low recoil, and her skills are the active skill Paw Detector, where she can summon little turrets and she can place these turrets within entryways near sight, and once a player walks into those turrets, a beam goes to them and damages them and rips off some of their shield, and also shows where their location is to the team. And her passive skill is Kitty Tracer, where Michelle reveals enemies through walls when they hit her with a direct weapon fire, and her ultimate, honestly game changing and clutch scenarios, Mighty Meow Blast, where she summons this humongous cat turret where it could just beam people across the map, and I've experienced that punishment before many times. If above average skill player has Michelle, she can dominate the defensive plays on certain maps, and I can say she's S rank. Yvette, part of the Puss team with a Beirut's SMG. It's similar to Michelle's AR, but it's particularly only good for close to somewhat mid-range battles, but fall off drastically the farther you go. And her skills, Teddy Assault, she summons a bear called Faye, where she can control around, spot enemies, and click on their left click to run and smash onto the enemies and cause ice to slow them down and cause them to become more fragile, aka getting more damage onto them. But she could also use Faye as a blocker for herself and put her bear next to her and block bullets from enemies from shooting her. Her passive skill is Camouflage, kind of a selfish ability, I would say. She just stands still and becomes harder to see over time, but if an enemy gets closer to her, they can see her better. And her ultimate skill is a Frost Bear that creates 3 polar zones in succession and causing enemies to slip, slowing their rate of fire and reducing their weapon usability. I have not seen particularly any good plays of such ultimates so far in my ranked games. I have not seen any crazy Yvettes where I've been so far, so I will rank her B tier because of her kind of selfish abilities, I would say, that can really be used in very niche scenarios depending on what's happening in the game. I'll rank Kokona S tier. She's a sniper character and her sniper is a Hussar, and I would say she's a quite unique character within gaming because a sniper and a healer, because she has to stay in the back line a lot of the time. She can't really be upfront and being aggressive depending on which player plays her. Her active skill is a healing drone, where she could deploy a healing drone over a chosen teammate and it restores their armor and shield. Her passive skill is if a teammate is down, you can send a drone to heal them over time and to get them up, and it will also heal her as well. Her ultimate skill basically is a res. She can res someone that's near her that is basically dead from the team. So a very unique character within STRINOVA is sniper healer character, where they stay in the back line, pick off picks that they're open and sight lines. Like for example, some maps are super open and she could just take them out and heal characters from a distance. I rated her S tier because of her kit, because we always need a healer on the team. Nabungada, he's part of the Puss team. He has a Judge DMR that's a burst assault rifle, and I rated him C tier. Personally, I've not seen a lot of good Nabungadas within my ranked games, and I would say he's a very good utility character. He has a lot of util, but they're just not used correctly, such as his active skill called Guardian Eye. He carries 2 of them, and it's basically a circle that he places down that if a teammate and himself are in it, can increase his weapon fire rate, weapon usability, and armor regeneration. So that's very good, but I don't see a lot of coordination being used with Nabungadas, where he places these 2 Guardian Eyes. His passive skill is called Blinding Shot, so within an ADS scope, he has a non-charged shot and a charged shot. If he shoots a charged shot at an enemy, it disables the enemy's ADS's scope. Basically, they have no reticle anymore if they're scoped into their weapon. His ultimate skill is Pulse Overload, that generates and emits a wave across the battlefield within a certain radius, and it reveals where enemies are and disables their abilities for them not be able to be used. But the problem is there's not a lot of communication with Nabungadas because he's a very team-oriented character. Sorry, while Build, I'm dissing on your character, but rank C tier. Flavia, part of the Puss team, basically Reyna from Valorant on steroids, I'll say. Her active skill is basically Reyna's ultimate, but in a ability form where it's just, in my opinion, very annoying to play against. Her active skill, Phantom Mirage. Her passive skill basically gives her free ultimate points if she gets damage, retribution, and her ultimate skill, Phantom Blooder, basically ultimate steroid Reyna in a zone. It's very annoying to play against her, so I'll do A tier if she's handed to a very good player. Flavia, I hate you. Fragrance is a very team-oriented player. She needs to be near her teammates a lot because mainly her abilities orientate towards buffing teammates, giving more HP, buffing their damage, or speeding them up, etc. And that's what her ultimate does as well, but her ultimate kind of has a downside because she has to keep this humongous fragrance bottle up, and she's kind of vulnerable in that state, I would say. If you have a very good fragrance player that knows how to time their buffs to their teammates very well, B tier character due to her ultimate basically keeping her handicapped and not allowing her to do anything else, and she has to basically rely on her teammates a ton. to do anything for her, but very good team-centric character. Ika is part of the Scissors team, and she has a shotgun called the Wildfire. She's a very heavy duelist character. She needs to be in gunfights, needs to be in front of the team, can't really be part of the backline at all. Her active skill, Purgatory, basically summons a humongous flame cage where she can push into enemy grounds. If an enemy is found in that circle, they will be burned and damaged. Her passive skill, Soul Battery, charges up her shotgun every time she hits someone with it, and when she gets 100-point max, she does extra heat damage to the person that she's shooting at. And her ultimate skill, Firestorm, is basically a firestorm that she throws down to characters and they just fly up and do damage to them. She's only A tier, I would say, because not S. If you have a very aggressive Ika that knows how to use their abilities super well, she can honestly dominate teams. I'm speaking about Mr. Gremlin and Dave here by being super aggressive. So if you have a very aggressive Ika, she's A tier because of the fact that she can't escape those fights very easily and she needs mainly help with those fights. She's not like Baimo, where Baimo can be self-sufficient and Ika's not self-sufficient. Ming, part of the Scissors team with an AR called the Rebel Flame. She's a very aggressive duelist character that loves to be in the battlefield and in the front lines. Her active skill basically is an electrical orb. She shoots at people through walls, by the way, that could push people out of zones and reveal them if it damages them as well. Her passive skill basically gives her free armor based on how much damage her weapon does, and her shield surge is basically Phoenix from Valorant on steroids. She gets more shield. She's basically on crack. Don't mess with Ming. She's easily an S character if you have a cracked Ming on your team and knows how to use her ability super well and is super aggressive. Medrith is part of the Scissors team and she has an AR called the Falcon, and her active skill is a Sandstorm where she throws this little sandstorm and it blocks people's point of view and gets rid of their HP a tiny bit while draining it. Her passive skill allows her to fly temporarily in the game called Zeroth Rings, and her ultimate skill is basically Viper's ultimate from Valorant where she basically forms this big sandstorm orb and you're practically blind in there. But I wouldn't rate her higher than a BT character because she just controls territory and that's pretty much it. Laween is part of the Scissors team and she has a Shadow AR. Her active skill is a Pulse Blade where she throws it and makes this humongous orb and it scans anyone that's in that area and they get revealed to the enemy team. Her passive skill is Shadow Reveal. Enemies hit by Laween's primary weapon briefly expose her to her teammates. And Stealth Master is basically this little box where her entire team to go through and they're basically all invisible. But I wouldn't say she's an insane character at all. She basically just helps locate people and that's pretty much it. I will honestly rate Laween B tier. Haven't really seen any A tier Laweens. Her kit's just very located, I would say. Not too much of a duelist at all. Just help me locate players and that's pretty much it. So B tier. Rechi, part of the Scissors team with the Dawn DMR that can't even one-shot anyone that wants to be a sniper as well. Kinda weird. His active skill Daybreak's basically a Viper Phoenix wall, any wall from Valorant character. Passive skill when he's in ADS briefly reveals the enemies to his teammates, and his ultimate skill is basically buffing his active Daybreak skill, making bullets that can't shoot through the wall. Very boring character. Haven't seen any insane Rechi plays in my ranked games. His walls have helped me win a couple games here and there, but he's honestly not chosen much at all, and he's honestly C tier. Kanami from the Scissors team, basically I from Oshinoko. She has the final sniper rifle, and her active skill is a disc that she can shoot out, and it can reveal players that are near that disc. Basically, her passive skill as well is if she shoots a bullet, it will reveal an enemy as well. And her active skill Showtime is basically if she's truly an idol, why would people get dizzy near her music if she's singing it with her Showtime ultimate? If you really think about that, so it pulls people towards her, and basically you get dizzy from her music, and that's not a really good thing if you're an idol person. Basically, she just reveals people, and that's pretty much it. She's an A tier character in my opinion because if a sniper rifle person can dominate certain points on certain maps, they can destroy your team. If she's very good at revealing where characters are, they can also help your teammate locate them and pinpoint them and kill them as well. Audrey from the Brino team, and her gun is the Champion LMG. Her active skill is Gun Blazing, basically turret mode. She could go into this turret that has no recoil and she could basically destroy people. Her passive skill is Royal Shield. It went to ADS. Her shield pops up right beside her reticle and it protects you from extra damage. Her ultimate skill is basically fire bombs from hell, basically with her turret mode. She could blow up the place, light up on fire and kill people. I rank her B tier because as high as the higher ranks go, it kind of depends on who plays her positioning and how they do well with her. For say on Audrey, in the earlier games she's honestly S tier. She can destroy a lot of players, but as you climb up the ranks she becomes less viable and depends honestly who plays her. B tier Audrey. Magdalena from the Brino team with the Chroma DMR. Her active skill is the Pigment Bind. She can splash paint on any part of the map and slow down players. players, track them with her paint, and prevent them from going into 2D mode. Very powerful weapon with the pigment bind. Passive skills paint tracks. Basically, she can track you if you're painted. And ultimate skills basically humongous paint bubble. You are going to have every debuff in the game practically if you're in this bubble. Good luck surviving. I honestly rate her 8 tier because of the above average player could have her. Even though there's a slow grenade weapon, having someone that produce that paint repeatedly and prevent players from going on top or going 2D and going higher, or preventing them from going to certain places in 2D mode, A tier. Celestia, part of the Brino team, and her weapon is called the Paralysis AR. Her active skill is the Guardian Star, where she can cast armor onto an ally, regenerating their shield and giving them more max shield, and that star comes back to her, increasing her own shield as well. Her passive skill is called Cosmic Recovery, where she over time restores her own shield and restores allies' shield. And her ultimate skill is basically she teleports to a player. Where she does that, it charges up their shield, Basically, you become kind of cracked in that type of little scenario. Due to how supportive she is, but she can't really do any big plays, I would say. She's just a very support type of character. She's A tier. Bimo, part of the Brino team with the Freedom Rain shotgun. His active skill is Blitz Wand. Bimo zooms forward and automatically reloads his shotgun with 2 shells. His passive skill is Dance Shackle. Primary weapon, strings block enemies upon dealing at least 50 damage in a single shot. Basically, they can't stringify him. And his ultimate skill is Street Fighter. Basically, Phoenix Ultimate from Valorant. And he's honestly S tier if you have an above average player. Stinky behind the back lines, picking off enemies, making a lot of ruckus in the back. This guy is a freedom fighter for sure. Busha from the Brino team with the Sawtooth AR. She's able to locate people with her Apex Predator at less than full HP and at full HP. And when she locates them, she's able to run faster towards them. Her passive skill, Hunter's Feast, is the enemy she kills dies. It drops a energy crystal and she picks it up. It restores her HP. And ultimate crystal is called a Bloodbath. Basically makes her fire rate increase, her speed, etc. And energy crystals extend the skill's duration. So her ultimate could be basically infinite if she gets back-to-back kills. And I would say she is an A tier character, not S tier, because it just all depends on who plays her again. And she can get rezzed to an extent sometimes for abilities. And that res ability that she has becomes less viable the more higher you go in the ranks in Stravona. So A tier.